It's time to go in the Sulky on a Saturday night at the Meadowlands. Hi, everybody. Once again, Dave Little with you from the SNY Sam McKee Memorial broadcast set here at Meadowlands Racing and Entertainment. And I am joined by one of the top trainers on the Ontario circuit at Woodbine Mohawk Park's Carmen Auciello. Carmen, thanks for being with us.
It's a pleasure, Dave.
Now, for years and years, you folks up in Ontario race at Woodbine and Mohawk, splitting up the race meet during the course of the calendar year. 2019 marks the first full year where racing will just take place at Mohawk. How has that affected the racing up there?
Mohawk's a nicer track to race at. It's a little bit more fair. It's not as speed oriented. For myself personally, though, it's an hour and 15-minute drive from my farm versus about 45 minutes for Woodbine. So I'd like to switch back in the wintertime to Woodbine, but hey, we've just got to live with it.
Well, the fact of the matter is that is the Woodbine track easier on the horses?
No, it's not much different at all. Woodbine's just a bit more of a speed-oriented track, a longer sprint to the first quarter and a longer sprint home. But Mohawk overall is better for some, for racing, come from behind and everything. So. Okay,
so great. So clearly, we're going to get to a lot of the stuff that Carmen does as far as the training goes a little further down the road here. But first, I want to talk about some things with a graphic that I call "Stay in Your Lane, Bro." And Carmen is a guy who has an awful lot of other talents. First and foremost, in September of 2012, you were in a competition called From Bike to the Mic, and actually were a race caller at Grand River Raceway. Tell us about that.
That was a lot of fun. That was a competition they had with a bunch of drivers and trainers. Once a week, one person would call a race, and then they judged it, and there were 3 finalists, and I was lucky enough to win.
Well, that's pretty nice. Your first time out. Had you called races anywhere else?
No, that was the first time, first and only, I think. But I was pretty happy with it. I think I did a good job.
Now, maybe your alter ego helped you, as we see on our second bullet there, rock and roller. So clearly, you've been a front man for a band who used to play near your Stouffville, Ontario home?
That's right, yeah. I'm a better singer than I am guitar player, but I can do a little bit of both. And yeah, my days of singing and playing guitar are almost over now. Just too busy, but that was a lot of fun.
Well, I'm sure that you still like a karaoke here and there.
I sure do.
How about school days? I read something somewhere that you have a degree in marketing from Humber College, and you feel that that helps you given the large amount of horses that you have in your stable.
I think so. I mean, I would never dissuade anybody from going to school and getting an education, no matter what you plan to do with your career. It just helps me run my business better, manage my employees better, and overall deal with my owners better and promote myself better as well.
Now, the other day when you and I had a short conversation, you told me that you have 80 horses in your barn, but they're obviously not all racing at this time. So how does it break down for you? Out of those 80, how many are racing and how many are 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds? How does it all break?
I think right now there's about 45 racing, something like that. Between the 2 stables, there's 17 down in Pine Bush, New York, and we've got a stable of 40 in Port Perry, Ontario, but about probably 28 or 30 of them are racing. And then I've got a baby barn set up out near Flamborough Downs with 21 babies and a few 2-year-olds training back down.
Now, is that a departure for you? You've obviously been out and very successful for at least 6-7 years now. Did you start, with maybe half as many horses, and now you're branching out into younger ones?
For sure, yeah. When we started to get big, we had 25, 30, 35 horses. We always had a few 2-year-olds every year, maybe 10, 8, something like that. But this year, it's kind of the first time we've had a large number, and the first time I've set up a separate stable for it as well.
Now, you told me that you really would love to have some Grand Circuit success, and for a guy with as many wins as you haven't had much of a taste of that. What are you going to try to do to rectify that in the future?
That's something I think that just comes with time and experience, and trust from your owners. Without owners, I'd be nowhere. So I need, some people with money that are willing to go out and spend some money on yearlings to put some trust in me.
All right, so you have these 80 horses, you have 40 racing in Ontario, you have a bunch of them racing down here at the Meadowlands in Yonkers. At what point does a guy get spread too thin?
If you have good help, I think, as Ron Burke has proven, you can do it. It's nice. It would be nicer if you could be there all the time, but you just can't. So you have good help, you trust the people that work for you, and see how it goes.
Now, you're a bit of a departure in terms of a lot of trainers that I know and that I've interviewed, in that you're a guy who, even when he's home for an extended amount of time, you're not at the track every night.
Not every night, no. Like right now, Mohawk races 4 nights a week. We might go to Flamborough a couple nights a week, but I, at the most, go to the track 2 nights a week. And it's something that my owners and myself have kind of agreed upon that, family comes first. And I want to see my kids grow up and spend time with them, and you can't do that if you're at the track 5 nights a week.
So the process for you really is more in the morning. You want to jog the horses, see how they're doing, maybe talk about equipment changes, stuff like that?
For sure, yeah, for sure. I'm still at the barn 6 days a week and in touch with everyone at the other 2 stables, 24 hours a day basically. But when it comes to racing, most of the work is done during the day. And, leave it up to your second trainers and your grooms and your drivers at night.
Now, you're having quite a bit of success here at the current Meadowlands meeting. How do you decide which of your horses are Mohawk horses and which are Meadowlands horses?
It's tough. I've got a few owners that really just want to race at home. Most of my owners are from up in my area in Ontario, and they love to race. They love to go to the track and watch their horse race. So sometimes you don't really have an option. They stay in Ontario. Some of my other owners, they love racing down here. So when it comes to that, if I think I have one that's really good on a half on a small track, then Yonkers is the place for them. And sometimes you send them down and they can't quite handle Yonkers, then we try Meadowlands, but there's no set rule. We just kind of go with it.
Now, you mentioned that the purse structure of Mohawk is one that's very pleasing to you, but that the other tracks on the circuit don't quite stack up. So when you have a half-mile horse who's racing at home, you like to try him down at Yonkers, don't you?
For sure, yeah. There are a couple nice half-mile tracks at home, but unfortunately the purse money just isn't anywhere comparable to Yonkers. So if you have a good half-mile horse, it makes sense to try them down here for sure.
Now, one of those horses is on tonight's card. Highland Beachy Cove is in Carm's barn, and I'm wondering, he looks to be a horse who can get around 4 turns, so why is he racing here? Why isn't he at Yonkers?
We tried him at Yonkers his first start down, and he won. But then Yonkers had the break for 17 days or something like that. We brought him here. Unfortunately, he had to race in the preferred. He actually raced well. He was first up, hung in there. And then I entered him at Yonkers maybe 3 times, and the class didn't go. And I just figured he would have had to go to Yonkers tonight, and I was going to have 5 in here anyway. So I said, put them all on the bus and bring them here.
Now, you told me earlier tonight you have 6 in here and 9 back home, is that right?
That's right, yeah.
Boy, that's pretty incredible. So you have all these horses racing all at the same time. Do they race during the weekend, any of them, or is it all on the weekend?
Oh, yeah. We Fridays and Saturdays are the most busy nights, but Saturdays, that's the night you're supposed to have a lot of horses in to go, because that's usually when the best horses are racing. So if you do have 15 in on a Saturday, that just means that you've probably got a lot of nice horses in your barn.
Talking about a nice horse in your barn, Carm, before we let you go, tell me a little bit about a nice filly and mare pacer by the name of Exhilarated.
Well, I can't say enough about her. Yeah. She makes me well up, but she's just a mare that my dad and I own ourselves, and just a tough mare. She comes to play every week, and she's actually nominated for an O'Brien Award this year and up in Canada, and that's a really special honor to not only to own and train a horse like her, but to be recognized for her accomplishments as well.
Now, before we let you go, you're a guy who grew up in Ontario, Stouffville, and your farm is in Port Perry.
That's right.
But you're not a guy who's necessarily crazy to win the North America Cup. I'm sure that would be nice, but you gave me a little bit of an indicator as to what the dream race for Carmen Auciello was to win. Which one is that?
The Little Brown Jug.
The Little Brown Jug. A kid from Ontario. How's that?
It's a race that my father-in-law and I and a couple friends used to go down to every year, starting back in about 2001. And we went down for 10 or 11 years straight, and it just became, my favorite race. And a great getaway, lots of fun with, lots of people, good people and friends and stuff. And there's no more exciting race as far as I'm concerned.
Carmen Auciello, lots of good luck in chasing that Little Brown Jug dream and continued success both in Ontario and in New York and New Jersey in 2019. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks, Dave.
We'll be right back. Hollywood Hayden will jump into Carm's chair, and we'll talk about tonight's featured action.